In a time and place when you can work from anywhere,
2 ladies in their mid to late 27s have decided to.
and they're calling it workationing.
The ladies discuss common mental roadblocks and how to overcome them.
I get by with a little help from my internet therapist.
Imposter syndrome, the sunk cost fallacy, and fear of failure all come to the party.
Jeff Goldblum also makes a cameo appearance.
This is the Workationing Podcast. I know no one's ever told you you weren't loud enough before, but in this one instance, sitting next to me,
You always say that I'm very loud in restaurants.
you were the loudest everywhere. You're the loudest. You're one of the loudest people I've ever met.
I think I might be hard of hearing.
You are. You 100% are. You like really shout at night at like 3 a.m. And I'm just like, I'm sure our neighbors love this. And I'm like, that's a really good observation, Kari. And you're like, and the other thing is.
I'm on EST. You know? I have employees in California. I'm still working.
Oh, God.
Thinking about things.
Did we just start our podcast? I think we did.
I think we did. Yeah.
Okay, so we know that it's been a while again, and we're sorry about that. And I want you to know that we're back today, even though we're not feeling too good.
No. We worked a 12-hour day today.
We sure did, and we're sick. Vaguely, weirdly sick. I have to tell you, it has been tomorrow. It will be 11 months to the day that we fled Acapulco.
Oh, good.
Not left, fled.
My favorite part about Acapulco is leaving it.
Absolutely. And I'm still kind of sick. Kari and I were just talking about this. It's like we got a little touch of food poisoning the other night, I think.
Bad chicken satay.
Yeah, I was trying to stay on my diet. And you know what? To be fair, I was skinnier the next day. I did way less.
It's true. Nothing like a good case of food poisoning to help you get into your skinny jeans.
Right? So that happened, but I just haven't quite bounced back from it. I swear since Acapulco, I used to have the strongest stomach and I would never get sick. I would especially not ever puke. But I have puked more in the last year, sorry people, than I have like in my entire life. And I swear it only happened after Acapulco.
That was a rough time for me.
I know. So anyways, don't go to Acapulco.
Just avoid it if you can. And really, chances are you absolutely the fuck can.
I know that there are some Bitcoin douchebags down in Acapulco acting like they're rich, standing in front of windows that look as though they might be looking upon a very nice beach.
It's not nice.
It's not nice.
Don't
it's
go
not
there.
nice there. And I know that those assholes are lying about how much Bitcoin they have. I'm going on the record as saying I know they're lying about how much Bitcoin they had, because if they had even 2 shiny dimes, digital or otherwise, they would buy the first ticket out of there.
Even to Mexico City.
No, if they had even one.
Playa del Carmen is very nice.
Right? Just freaking anywhere. Pack up your wife, your kids, and your 47 dogs.
I went to Rosarita one time. Maybe it was Rosita. I think it was Rosarita. I don't know. I could drive there from San Diego, and so I did, and stayed at a weird hotel. You can go there. That's still better than Acapulco.
Yeah, just literally anywhere. Don't go to Acapulco. The moral of that story.
But we're still recovering from that bad decision.
Yeah, this one had some lasting consequences. That's my favorite kind.
Yeah, now that I'm in one spot, I think I'm going to use my fancy new Dutch health insurance to go get some blood work done.
Yeah, just see what's popping. Who knows? Like we could literally, I would have hoped that I would have at least lost more weight if I had a parasite.
Oh God, I'm going to be so grossed out if I have a tapeworm. The thought of it makes me horfy.
I don't think we would have had our weight gain episode if there was a tapeworm involved. So
maybe
it
just grew with me.
Maybe.
I did my tapeworm not like the keto diet.
Maybe it just didn't like brie.
My tapeworm is lactose intolerant. It's not me.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, my Dutch health insurance, 130 euros. That includes dental up to 10,000 euros. That includes international healthcare. If I get sick in the States, it'll cover it. That's a value on a deal.
Right? Shout out to everybody dying at home because they can't pay their medical bills. That sucks. When I talk to people internationally about like what the healthcare situation in the US is like really like on the ground, like how much it costs for my health insurance and that sort of thing, people are just not just horrified, but like wildly confused. They're like, literally, where did you go wrong?
How? How is that even possible? And I was talking to a friend about this, and I was talking about how we expatted out here and what all that involved. And really, if you're looking at, because they can't turn you down.
No.
It's compulsory that you have health insurance out here. And on top of that, none of the carriers can turn you down no matter what kind of pre-existing conditions that you have. So let's say you've got cancer and you know that you're looking at least $50,000, wouldn't you say? To cure cancer?
Probably at least.
More
Although
than
out here
that?
the prices are more reasonable, so it's hard to know. They're probably like, that'll be $1,250.
No, I mean, it would be completely covered, right? So like if you're looking at a $50,000 cancer bill, we'll say, but it costs, you've got to park 4,500 euros in a Dutch bank account and start a business out here.
Right.
And then you can move over. And then for 130 euros a month, you get full coverage on your cancer treatment.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that a lot of people are going to have to start thinking about, because the healthcare situation in the U.S. is just like not tenable for so many people right now.
Right.
And that's upsetting.
I saw a Facebook ad about medical tourism. And this beautiful woman from LA with shiny, sparkly, gorgeous white teeth had to have a root canal. And it was going to be, I think it was $1,200 or $1,500 at her dentist is what she was quoted. And one of her friends was like, why don't you just go to Egypt or to Mexico? And so she priced it out, and for way less money, she could go down to Mexico, get it done for like $150. The flights and the hotel, a nice hotel too.
Yeah,
all
you get
of that
to, like,
is still
pop
cheaper.
a couple days in Mexico.
Exactly. She did it again out to Egypt, got to see the pyramids, had some more dental work done. Still cheaper than having it done in the U.S. And I think that a lot of people in the U.S. are like, I don't want to go outside. What kind of medical care are you actually going to get? But actually, it's pretty good from what I can see.
Yeah, no complaints thus far. The little interaction I've had with it has all been extraordinarily positive and wildly cheap.
When we were out in Colombia, we heard stories of lots of ladies and people in general coming out to get plastic surgery out there because it's much cheaper than in the States. And you can stay in Medellin, Colombia for not much money.
Yeah, and those doctors were doing some fine work, I have to say. I got to see it out in the wild, and it was
good.
It was good.
It was really good. I would say it's better than what you typically see in the States even.
Yeah, I mean, it was like some real, 90210 plastic surgery status. It was good.
It was really good. Yeah. A lot of butt surgeries out there.
They do. They enjoy a good butt surgery.
They do. It's boobs and butts out there.
Yeah, they like that a lot.
Okay, so this is a long detour because actually what we're here to talk about is mental blocks.
Yeah. So we had mentioned previously that one of the things that we are working furiously on right now is getting out a bunch of video training, like basically a video training program for digital nomads, because so many people have come to us and asked us, like, how do you do this? And, how do you find remote work? And how do you travel on a budget? And how do you figure out where you're going to go? And basically, how do you make this your life?
Right. And actually, I wrote a guide about this about a year ago called How to Untether Your Life and Work From Anywhere. It's over at the Workationing website, workationing.com, if you want to check it out. But in there, I outlined how I replaced my day job in advertising, working downtown I had my very own cubicle. I don't mean to brag.
Ooh, girl.
It was a corner one, too.
Why are you here? Go back.
Right? God. Oh. I miss paying so much to park downtown every day, Mm-hmm. When I think about working in advertising, that's what I miss. That and the sexual harassment.
Ooh,
yeah.
yes.
So I wanted to GTFO out of that environment, and I did. And it took me 3 months. I replaced my income by freelance writing. I sourced all of that work on Craigslist. I got real nerdy about it. Mm-hmm. Optimize some things, tweak some things.
And how you do.
Right. And so I outlined my process for that and just steps in general, because it's not just how do you find work, it's how do you provide value.
Right. Because that's totally the most important thing. I think people are missing that, is that they think that they're going to come out and find some way to make money on the internet somehow, but they don't consider that at some point, for someone to write you a check, you're going to have to provide them value that is in excess of the amount that they have given you.
And if you can't consistently do that, those people are not going to keep writing you checks. They're certainly not going to refer you to other people. And, you might get a bad reputation.
Yeah. I mean, contrary to what I think some people, like, some of my family members even, I think they're like, what is this job that you have? Is it real? And I'm like, believe it's extra real.
It
because
is.
I don't get to just like convince people I'm doing my job by like being in their space every day. Like, hey, it's me again. I'm at this meeting. Like, I'm either providing value or I'm not providing value.
Exactly.
And it becomes very clear when you never see them and all they see is the results.
Especially when all of it is measurable.
Right.
All of it is measurable.
Absolutely. With the internet, you can measure absolutely every single little thing. So you can't be like, look at, we made some sort of a holistic change and it's generally positive. No, girl. Like, did you generate return on investment or did you not? And that's how what it's always going to come down to. And so that's the more brutal side of being a digital nomad, is that like you have to have a job for real. And you really have to know what you're doing.
Right. And can you make it? Do you have the skills required? Are they up to par in order for you to provide that value? And if not, then you're not going to have a good time out here as a digital nomad. You're going to find yourself stranded in Chiang Mai.
Yeah, and we've seen those flame outs just
crashing and burning.
Crazy. It's crazy how fast it happens, actually.
And you see the sad posts on Facebook and you're just like, oh, girl, no.
Yeah, it's like, sorry. Saw it coming, but sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you did what? You know, and the story is like 300 words and you can tell the person's crying as they're writing it. And like every line, there's a bad decision. And I'm like, oh, you shouldn't have done that.
Right? Just like, you have fucked up.
You have fucked up now. I love that video.
So anyways.
So anyway, we are producing this video training series to help people avoid these terrible pitfalls that will end you up stranded in Chiang Mai somewhere, writing one of these tearful Facebook posts on digital nomad groups.
Yes. So we're so excited about this because the content is good. I feel so confident in it. I'm so excited because there's so many people out there who I know want this lifestyle and they just need the roadmap. And I'm so excited to give it to them.
Girl, we've been there. We know the way.
No, I feel so passionate about this. Like, it's so, like, it's cute and all to, you know, improve the bottom line for a corporation. Like, that's fine. But, like, to actually help people figure out, you know, how to live the kind of life that they want to live, like, that's what we're really passionate about. However, as we've started putting this course together, we're getting all this feedback, we're talking to people in the digital nomad community and in the very large, very, very large community of aspiring digital nomads. And the thing that we keep coming across is that before you figure out how to replace your income with remote work, and before you figure out how to, you know, budget for your travel, and before you figure out all of those things, there are some like major mental blocks that keep people from moving forward.
Right. And not necessarily just in the digital nomad space, like moving forward with becoming a digital nomad. I think that a lot of these mental blocks that we're about to cover can be applied to all kinds of things that you're holding yourself back from, but want.
Totally. Like, if you know, and I think that this applies to so many people, even after, you know, a year and a half of this hardcore intentional living, workationing adventure, I think that I would still say this about myself. So, but if you can look at yourself and say objectively that there is a gap between the life that you currently have and the life that you want, and you aren't currently taking action to close that gap, then like, why?
Let's evaluate, shall we?
Right? Because like we're humans are rational beings.
Some of them.
Like some of them. In a theory, could be.
Blanket statement.
Some of them.
I wouldn't generalize.
Right?
So quick to generalize over there.
Okay, humans have the capacity to be, generally have the capacity to be rational beings.
I think that they all want to be.
Right. And people, I think, if you really ask someone, like, do you regularly not work in your own self-interest?
Of course I do.
Right, but do people really?
No, of course they don't.
No.
No, girl, they do not.
No, and because if there is a life that you want and you aren't moving towards it or making progress towards it in any way, you kind of accepted that you're never going to have it. And why, though? You're only going to live just this one time.
Yeah.
YOLO, bitches.
Don't have FOMO, YOLO.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, whether it's the digital nomad thing or whether it's just like you want to lose weight, you want a promotion, you want to buy a house, you want
to stop taking that shit.
Yeah, whatever it is, wherever that gap is in your life that for whatever reason you just continue to stare into instead of trying to close, there's a reason for that. Maybe a few reasons.
Well, we've outlined quite our top hits from the 80s, 90s, and today.
Because believe you drag this shit with you.
It's true. And I find myself struggling with these mental blocks at various times and in different kinds of ways, right? But the first, and one of my personal favorites.
You do like this one.
Is the sunk cost fallacy. And Kelly, how would you describe the sunk cost fallacy?
The sunk cost fallacy is basically this idea that the more that you invest in something, the harder it is to walk away from it. So even if you've already spent all this money on it and you're never going to get that money back and you still don't really have any idea how you're going to recoup those costs, you keep going because you've already poured so much money into it. So why would you stop?
Right. Maybe you're selling LuLaRoe leggings.
Oh, girl.
And you had to
Can you
invest. You had to invest in that package. I think it's like $500 that these ladies have to invest to buy their stock.
Right.
Right. And then they've got to promo it. And I think that they're like minimum floor prices. And I'm not a LuLaRoe expert. I've read some articles. Anyway, so you spent this $500 on these leggings that might rip, and you're having a hard time moving them out the door. And you really hate these leggings, your husband's looking at you like, goddamn, with those leggings. Do you know what I mean?
Like, late one evening, you run a quick Google search on pyramid scheme and you're like, this sounds familiar.
It might be. It smells like a Ponzi,
right?
But do you throw those leggings out or give them away or donate them or, wear them yourself, whatever the case may be? Or are you just like, well, I've invested in these leggings, now I have to sell them. And so catch me on Facebook 3 times a day.
Oh, and believe
pushing
they
these
are.
leggings.
So many people got unfollowed on Facebook. Every time someone joins an MLM, I'm like, I'm really sorry that you've reached this stage of your life and that our friendship has reached this stage because I can't have you on my Facebook feed anymore. Goodbye.
There is nothing like an MLM to get a long lost half acquaintance from high school to reach out to you.
Right?
Just see how you're doing.
Oh, what's really fun is like the Herbalife ones back when that was a thing, especially like being a lady of size in the Midwest as I was. Believe that I'd get somebody like in my slide into my DMs like, hey girl, how you doing? I haven't talked to you in a while. By the way,
have you heard about the gospel of Beachbody?
Right. I'm just like, no, again.
So do you do that? Do you continue to put time and energy and focus into selling this pile of leggings that you've had for 4 months and trying to grind it out, and you have made some money because you have sold some leggings, and people are telling you just got to keep going, girl, because it's going to happen for you. You just got to get your friends to help you sell some of these leggings too.
Right? You just have to rope more people into this. It's like The Ring.
Right. And so, like, at what point do you walk away? And the more time, energy, and headspace you invest in something, for me at least, the more difficult it becomes for me to walk away from it because I have invested so much in it. I don't want that investment to be a loss, right? But the more time, energy, and headspace I sink into this black hole that has really yielded no returns for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Because you can either accept that cost, accept the loss, and move forward.
And walk away.
Or you can stay in there and make the loss greater. And that can apply to LuLaRoe leggings. That can apply to your trash-ass boyfriend.
Yes. Yeah. Frequently in relationships, I see friends and sometimes my reflection in the mirror. Really, just delving into that sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah. And so I think that that's what holds people back a lot, is that sometimes just the fact that you've been doing something for so long makes you feel like if you quit, then somehow you're admitting defeat. But like sometimes you just got to take that L, It's better to take a smaller L than a bigger L that then becomes bold and then underlined and then holy shit, you're in your 50s and it's 200-point font.
It is, and you're just like, it's the whole page is this L, Like make it a small L if you can. So let's talk about how to overcome the sunk cost fallacy. And actually, there are other logical fallacies. Each one of them is interesting.
Totally. Yeah.
They're worth looking up. So pop a Google search on logical fallacies if you're into this kind of thing. But let's get into how to overcome it.
Yeah. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get really real about the costs and your chances of success. Like if you're counting on the stars to align a certain way to bail you out of this mess and, you know, God willing and the creek don't rise, like it might be time to walk away. And so like get really real, write it down, because I think sometimes people don't want to walk away because they don't want to assess the cost, but just do it. Just go put pen to paper, whether it's an emotional cost or like an actual cost, like really write down what it is, because I think that sometimes you just need to face it. And sometimes people are just like avoiding that number or that quantity, you know?
Right. I think this isn't the easiest thing to do, but get comfortable with the idea of walking away. Because if you're looking at something and you're wondering, is this a sunk cost that I should maybe walk away from? Chances are, yes, the answer is yes.
Probably
walk away
yes.
from that, yes.
Probably yes.
So the sooner you get comfortable with walking away from it, the sooner you're going to be able to clearly evaluate the actual costs and chances of success. Run the correct math on that calculation.
Yeah.
And then determine what your best course of action is. And I maintain that if you have this niggling little feeling that, you know, something is a sunk cost that you should walk away from, almost 100% of the time it is.
It probably is. So the getting comfortable with walking away thing is really important, but that can be a little tricky. So, I mean, once again, do what you can to make it tangible for yourself, because this is like, this sunk cost fallacy is a mental block. This is something in your mind that is keeping you from working in your own best interest. So do whatever you can to make it real for yourself. Make a list of pros and cons of staying and going. Really look at those. Evaluate the whole situation. Look at it every day if you have to. You know, you're going to have to overcome this block in your mind, and it might take some time, but do what you can to keep the reality of it in your face, because eventually, like, once you see something, you can't unsee it.
Right. And for me, one of my favorite sayings is, if it's not a fuck yes, then it's a fuck no.
Exactly.
So if you're looking at a particular area of your life or subject or something that you might want to walk away from, ask yourself, how fuck yes am I feeling right now?
Yeah.
And if you're making a list of pros and cons, that's a good indication that it's not a fuck yeah.
Right. And if you have really set up shop in your life inside your fuck no,
right,
there might be something else going on there, and we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah. So the next one is habit. As your dad would say, the strongest force in the universe.
Yeah, that's what my dad would always say when I was growing up, and I would roll my eyes at him real hard. But it's the thing that I keep coming back to as an adult. I really have started to realize that it actually is the strongest force in the universe. And a lot of it is because it's even like physiological. You know what I mean? Like it's physical. It's the law of inertia.
Right.
You know, it's physiological in that literally your thoughts and actions when you're going about your life, each thought and action, you're kind of slowly building neural pathways in your brain. And as you do that, it makes whatever behaviors you go to the most, like kind of more ingrained. And then those things become harder to break out of. So if something is a habit of yours, you're literally wired to do that thing. And so ceasing to do that thing can be a struggle because you're literally fighting against your own brain.
It's the habit loop.
Yeah.
There's a great book called The Power of Habit. It's got a yellow cover. I'm pretty sure it's called The Power of Habit. It's got a little circle on it. Lots of interesting case studies in there. But it's very difficult to break habits, and you need to consciously do so.
Yeah.
It's something that you need to be very intentional about, whatever the habit may be. And maybe creating new habits. So anytime you want to be a fatty McSnack pack and eat half of a wheel of brie on a Wassa cracker,
who would do that?
For instance.
What kind of a monster?
You know?
Stop. You're scaring the children.
I can't imagine somebody. But maybe.
Don't be so extreme. My God.
Maybe instead of, getting out the cheese knife, if instead you replace that habit with walking around the block a few times.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a healthier habit that will improve your mood. Walking does great things. If you want to get crazy, you can exercise for realsies. That's
right.
Even better. And you will train yourself to prefer that over the brie over time.
Absolutely. I think the thing that was the most striking, I think for both of us actually, was when we started this whole workationing thing, was that I didn't realize how profound of an experience it was going to be to shake up literally every aspect of my life. And then by moving every month, I never even got a chance to get comfortable.
Right.
And so I think in the last year, we did I know that I personally did more self-work and more like effective self-work than I've ever done in my entire life, like combined. But it's just because every single day I was completely out of my comfort zone. My habits were not even, like the things that I used to do weren't even available to me anymore. And so I had to make a new decision.
And decision fatigue is also a thing. It's easier to make the same choice over and over and over again. It's like it goes back to a habit thing, but specifically you just get so choiced out that it's easier to have your go-tos. For me, for a while, for an unfortunate amount of time, actually, it was that cheese knife and the brie. But there's so much less self-loathing at the end of a workout or a walk around the block. And so replacing bad habits with good ones will help you be more effective throughout other areas of your life as well. Because it's just going to clear up the headspace of like, shit, I shouldn't have eaten all that brie last night.
Right. And also like make some room for yourself with this decision fatigue thing. Because once you create a new habit, then doing that new thing is not going to be as taxing to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it doesn't feel like a decision that you're making. So if you're trying to really change something in your life, though, understand that decision fatigue is real and accommodate for that. You literally only have so many fucks to give in a day. And so if you know...
Finite.
Yeah. And so like if you know that like you're working on this fitness thing or you're working on this big project that you want to do for work or something like that, and that is the thing that is going to be the most mentally taxing for you because it's going to require you to like step outside of your comfort zone and do things that you haven't done and decide to do something that you don't usually do, well then do what you can to optimize for that. For instance, make those decisions earlier in the day. Because if you wait until 10 p.m. to decide if you're going to do this or that, you're going to do the thing that's easier for you because you're going to be maxed out.
Except for today when it's 10 p.m. and we decided to record this damn podcast anyway. Go us.
No, that's awesome. And I think we actually we do a much better job of that. But once again, it's a muscle.
It is.
You know, so if you're starting at the beginning with this, try to, number one, just, you know, optimize your life where you can. Plan accordingly. You know, if it's a lot easier to like meal plan and make a whole bunch of food on a Sunday when you don't have a lot of other stuff going on and that's the only thing you really have to worry about, then you do all of that. And then for the rest of the week, you know, when it comes time for you to decide what to eat, it's not really a decision because the food's right there. It's in the fridge.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of ways to just think about decision fatigue and to like set yourself up for success.
Also, having an accountability buddy can really help. So if you've got a friend who's also on the self-improvement grift, or say you've got a roommate who you said this morning,
some of us need live-in accountability, okay?
You know, I was like, hey, Kelly, we will record that podcast today. I promise you. And then we both fell into work holes, and I was just like, well, I promised Kelly this morning. I said that out loud. I heard myself do it. Deaf ass me heard myself say that. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, just set yourself up for that. And yes, an accountability partner is so huge because some days it's honestly a little peer pressure. Nothing wrong with it.
And meditation can help, I'm told.
Yeah. I'm told that as well. I'm not good at it, but other people seem to really experience the benefits.
I do off and on. I am a fan of Headspace, the app, because it's guided meditation. I need somebody to tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
Because I've got other things to think about besides like some orb that I'm trying to move from the top of my head down to the floor or something. I don't, you know.
Yeah, I literally just need some bullshit like that to focus on so I can stop thinking about the other stuff.
Oh, here's a fun one. This is a good mental block.
This one, like, listen, this one's harsh, but I think so important. And like, if somebody hasn't said it to you, this is a safe space.
It is. We're all friends here.
Yeah, and we care about you. But like, if there is a significant gap in your life between the life that you want and the life that you have, and you are making no effort to close that gap,
you need to respect yourself more.
Yeah. What's up with that?
Yeah. And it can be hard because, like, of course, you want to assume, like, of course I respect myself, right? But how are you demonstrating that respect? How are you showing yourself that respect? What does your bedroom look like right now? Is it clean? Is it messy?
Is that a read? No, I'm just kidding. My room's a mess right now. God damn it.
I cleaned mine today, so I was, you know, top of mind.
She's feeling sassy.
I am feeling sassy. Yeah. Just for instance, you know, but like we say this all the time. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
It's so true.
And actually, Kelly got me a killer birthday present, which is looking at us right now. It is a portrait of Jeff Goldblum.
And more specifically, it's a portrait of Dr. Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park.
And it's done in like an oil painting. This is a print. God, if I could have that, I would Ocean's 14 the original.
Oh, just like we're gonna need a laser dancer, an explosions guy.
I need a hacker
and a pickpocket for some reason.
Yes, yeah,
just in case,
preferably from London,
and a hot chick.
Yeah, a real Lucy Liu.
Yeah.
She's
gonna need to stomp in somewhere in just like the most killer evening gown you've ever seen.
I need a Kill Bill situation.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna need a machete.
Yeah. yeah. We're gonna need some things.
No, we would do some things for the like real version of this painting.
We contacted the artiste, and tried to A, inquire about the original, and then B, tried to get it in a larger format because I wanted this as big as I could possibly get it. He said that I could have it in a tapestry, and I was just like, what kind of dorm room situation
right?
do you think tapestry?
Yeah, I'll put it next to my blacklight poster, asshole.
Right? No.
I'm a lady.
I'm trying to respect your art, man.
I'm trying to respect myself.
Exactly.
Tapestry. Get out of here.
So we got it in the largest format that we have, and we took a photo of it. It's on the Workationing Facebook page. It is my favorite thing on earth. Jeff Goldblum in his oil painting glory is reclining, and he's got one leg up and one leg down, and it's kind of very come hither, and his shirt is open, his abs are exposed, and let me tell you, I could serve individual courses for a dinner party off of those abs.
Mm-hmm. It's a thing of beauty. It's art. It's art.
There's a butterfly gently resting on the tip of his finger.
And he's got this like furrowed brow, and he is perturbed.
His lips are parted. He's about to say something. Maybe he's in the process of saying something. And every time I look at him, he says just one of a few different things. The most common is that the best you can do?
Yeah, he says that a lot. That's one of his favorite things to say.
Kelly and I say, so this, to be clear, this portrait for my birthday, Kelly got it mounted in a museum quality frame. The frame is gold Baroque and giant.
Yeah, I went into the store and they like tried to show me frames, and I was just like poster frames, and I was just like, no. Like, Jeff demands excellence.
Jeff demands excellence, exactly. And Kelly and I had talked about like what would be good for this painting.
Right.
And you just executed the fuck out of that.
I did. I was like, you're going to need to find me the fancy shit in the back. Run and get it.
And then you unfurled it, right? Or they had already seen it?
Yeah. And then once they were picking up what I was putting down, but they were just like, that's going to be a weird amount of money. And I was like, Jeff demands excellence though. So we're doing it.
Right.
I don't regret it at all. It's like the coolest thing ever. It looks great in here.
You even sprung for the anti-glare glass.
Of course I did. I can't have the view of Jeff judging my efforts being obscured by some like glare.
No. And so Kelly and I one day had a weirdly long talk about how this is executed excellence, or excellence executed rather, on so many different levels as I'm looking at it. So number one, Jurassic Park, a masterpiece of a movie, but prior to that was a masterpiece by Michael Crichton.
I was gonna say Michael Crichton, Steven Spielberg. They don't know how to lose, either one of them.
No, all three of them came together to put Jeff Goldblum, another fucking masterpiece, right where he needed to be.
Yeah, and Dr. Ian Malcolm was supposed to be this like rock star scientist, and tell me they didn't like nail it.
So good. That's really when I started developing my hardcore thing for Jeff Goldblum.
No, me too. I was like 10, and I was just like really...
I was like, that's the man for me.
Right?
I'll have that, thanks. And now I do on my living room wall. Thank you. But so there's those levels of excellence. Then this master artist painted him in oil.
He did.
To the max.
No, and it couldn't be more beautiful. And it actually is like a gorgeous painting on top of being phenomenal in content. Like, it's just like the composition, the colors, everything. Like, it's moving. It's like evocative.
The way that the light is hitting Jeff is the guy is actually a killer artist. And this is outside of the norm for what he normally does.
Like Rembrandt wishes with this light. Yes.
Like, it's so good.
So good.
Just Starry Night couldn't even. in that background because there's a storm a brewing.
There is.
And Jeff is not disturbed by it. He's really focused on what the fuck we're doing wrong and is it up to par.
Yeah, it's a real masterclass, this painting. It's so good.
It's so good. And the frame, as we've discussed, is just magnifique.
Yeah. So, Jeff, where we're going with this, sorry. Where we're going with this is that Jeff helps us to remember to respect ourselves.
It's true.
Because he looks at what I do and he's just like, girl, really?
How you do one thing is how you do everything. And did you do that well?
Right. And also, I want to do everything this well. You know what I mean? I want to do everything as well as this painting. Like, I want to have had this, like, we both had this vision. We talked about it forever. You know what I mean? And then we made it happen. And look, the world is a better place.
It is. And now he's here to intimidate all of the men who come over and sit on our couch.
And I think he's doing a great job.
He's doing a great job. But respect yourself and respect what you do.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I know that was a long detour, but if you're consistently not working in your own best interest, chances are it's that you don't respect yourself. Because if you respected yourself, you'd honestly treat yourself better. And there's a lot of ways that this might manifest itself. So first of all, it can look like just straight up self-sabotage, which, I mean, I think everyone's a little familiar with that.
Good old-fashioned self-sabotage.
Right? But it can also be just like we were talking about earlier, like just accepting unfavorable conditions without taking action to fix them. It's like that meme of the dog in the fiery room and he's like, this is fine.
It's not fine, though.
It's not fine.
Get out of that burning room.
Yeah, like, why are you sitting there? Like we were talking about before, why are you setting up shop like in the heart of your fuck no?
Right.
And then just like camping out there and being like, this is fine. It's not fine. Why are you accepting like a shitty situation for yourself?
Here's a fun question to ask yourself sometimes. Self, what are the things that I've been complaining about for a very long time? Maybe even years. Is it my weight? Is it my job? Is it my relationship?
Yeah.
Is it this town?
Yeah. What's the thing that your friends are fucking sick to death of hearing about?
That's a good, you can ask. You can phone a friend.
Yeah, you know?
You might not like what they have to say because then you have to address it is the thing. And that takes work. It takes gumption. You've got to change some habits, get some self-respect. There's a lot of work that needs to happen. And how do you go about doing that by yourself? I couldn't. That's why I got an internet therapist.
Right. No, you absolutely, an internet therapist can really help.
Because you don't want to talk to your friends about things. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you feel like your friends are operating at a higher level, you don't want to be like, you know, I'm really, really struggling with being a terrible piece of shit in this one particular area. That's negative self-talk. You shouldn't say that. My internet therapist told me so.
Right.
You know?
But it's hard though. I think it's actually particularly hard for people who are like not respecting yourself doesn't necessarily mean that like you're living in your parents' basement like with Doritos dust all over your shirt. You know what I mean? Like that's a thing. But,
just the old chest plate.
Right? Like,
Gonna lay down and eat some Doritos.
Like, it can manifest in that fashion. But, like, it can also be, like, I know you can be, like, very successful, very good at your job. You know, you can have a nice house and good friends, and you can really, you know, look like that from the outside. But if you know in your heart of hearts that there's stuff that, like, you are tolerating that you shouldn't be tolerating, then that, like, comes down to a self-respect thing. And so, like, you've got to, like, get deep into that and figure out what it is. And an internet therapist can be amazing with that. Carrie has one. I have one.
Yeah, the place that we go through is BetterHelp, and actually betterhelp.com/workationing. That's betterhelp.com/workationing will take you to a place where if you want to check out an internet therapist, I think you get a week for free.
Yeah, and then they'll talk to you like 6 days a week. It's not like with another a different kind of therapist, like a regular therapist where
you've got to go.
Yeah, and they're like, well, okay, I'll see you again in like 2 to 3 weeks, or you know what I mean? Like you can talk to them every day. You can talk to them when you need to. You can talk to them live. You can just write to them. You can send them screenshots from your trash boyfriend. You can, You know what I mean? Like you can really have a very interactive and positive experience. And a lot of times that, once again, it's the accountability, it's the attention. Because believe it that your internet therapist is going to like email you if they haven't heard from you for a while.
They do. They check in.
And that's nice. Really helpful because it's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be addressing this.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and do that real quick.
And I'll tell you what, you are at a low low place in your life if you start lying to your internet therapist.
Yeah, I can't bring myself to do it because I'm just like I'll put her on ice for a couple days and not respond to her.
Me too, because sometimes I'm just like, I'm not ready to look at that quite yet. I've got other things.
Right, but what I don't do is be like, yeah, I've lost 10 pounds when I'm just like
no
covered in Doritos dust.
We really sound like chunky ladies in this episode.
Listen, we're going through a dieting spell and it gets us real focused on food.
I know. I do miss my brie days. Instead having sparkling water.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's flavored, not with sugar or anything like that. It's just mint flavored sparkling water.
I like the mint one.
I do too. It's good. Anyway, so you can't lie to your internet therapist like you might lie to your friends. And you get to tell your internet therapist all kinds of things that you would never tell your friends.
Right. It's like a very safe space. I would really recommend it. So one more time, betterhelp.com/workationing. That's betterhelp.com/workationing. And you can get yourself hooked up with an internet therapist too, if you feel like that might help you.
It's so convenient for me because I get to check in at whatever time I want to, whenever I'm feeling stressed, whenever I just have the time. I tried to have a therapist when I was in New Hampshire and I was just like, I don't want to go. I don't want to physically go. I would rather mow my lawn or do like anything else, really. But
it can be tough if you have a job too,
right?
When do you fit that in?
That was actually a challenge too, because I've got conference calls coming at me out of nowhere. Things happen all the time at the internet box, and I need to be at it sometimes. And so this is just way more convenient. You can Skype them. I've never have. She doesn't need to see what I look like.
No, girl, I don't need anyone to know about that.
My top knot. Imposter syndrome is another mental block.
This one is so huge. And I think that it comes from like lies that we're kind of grow up with, I think especially in the United States.
Right.
Like there's kind of this idea, like I like to call this, now this is not one of the logical fallacies that we were talking about before. This is just a Kellyism. But I came up with this one when I had a trash ass boyfriend who thought he was a painter.
Can you please tell the story of what he used to say?
Oh God. We got into a fight one day because this homie had decided that he only needed to work like 5 shifts in a month. And it's because he really needed to focus on his art. And I was like, it seems like you take a lot of naps though, instead of arting.
Oh no, that's a bad sign.
Right. And I was just like, so what's up with that? I was like, if you're ever gonna, and also he just like would paint in the basement and then like really had this idea that someday somebody was gonna come along and look at these paintings and give him thousands of dollars for them. And I was like, that's literally not how the world works. You have to like get out there, you've got to meet people, you've got to take some risks. And he like whirled around on me and was like, I take risks on the canvas every day.
But wasn't his shit just some like wannabe Pollock?
Yeah, it was real basic and like not that inspired and mostly just a front for his laziness, I think.
I think so too.
Maybe a touch of substance abuse.
maybe just a touch of that. That sneaks up on you. If your partner's taking too many naps.
Yeah, girl.
That is a red flag. I've heard so many people go down on that. That has happened to me in the past.
He's like a real sleepy guy.
No,
nobody's that sleepy, it turns out.
No.
But anyways, the fallacy that I have coined is the garage band fallacy, which is basically this idea that you're going to start this band in your garage and that someday somebody's going to be just like a walking by and hear you, and then they're going to be like, well, let me get my record producer cousin on the phone. And then 5 minutes later, you've got a record deal, you're flying around, you're knee deep in coke and groupies. And that's just like really not how the world works.
No.
But I think that idea that's in people's head that like, number one, that can happen makes people kind of complacent.
Right. Like the stories of how models get just discovered at shopping malls.
Right. And like it does happen. But that was Giselle and not you.
Right.
And I think you can see why it happened to her and not you.
We're not trying
I'm clear on that.
We're not trying to be mean. You know?
No.
But let's be realistic here.
Right.
And if you want your art to be in a gallery, you should probably take it to some galleries.
Yeah, that would be a really good first step, Because here's the thing, like no one is going to discover you and no one is going to elevate you. And that's not a dig on you. That's because it happens to virtually no one. It happens to the Giselles of the world. You know what I mean? But like, how many? There's like one. That's why she only has the one name, though.
It's true. No, and you really need to advocate for yourself, because let's say you do have an advocate, and I see that like people get satisfied with this all the time, and I'm like, well, that's not enough. And it's like, so their boss, really their champion, is really pulling for them to get that promotion and maybe that raise. But how far can that person really take you? Girl, you need to be taking yourself as far as you can go. And what does that look like? You know, maybe trying for a job at a different company where you get that role from the start, or trying for a role at a different company, or shifting to get that higher salary from the start. Like, don't wait for other people to come and pull you up. Go climb that ladder yourself.
Right. And don't get into your head and think that you're not good enough, or you're not smart enough, or that you can't do it. One of like the most profound moments of my life was, I was having a rough time in my life a few years ago, and I was like, I'm going to do something that really scares me every week for a month. And the first thing that I did was stand-up comedy, because it really scared me, but I'd always wanted to do it. And I went and I did it. And afterwards, you know, I was talking to some comics who were being very supportive and sweet. And I was like, you know, I'd really like to be a stand-up comic. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, you are one now. You did it. You know, like, you got up, you're like, are you a good one? Not particularly, not yet. But like, you're there. You know what I mean? So
you
like,
got up on stage, you did it.
Right. And so like, don't get into your head and think that, like, I think a lot of imposter syndrome comes especially with like really smart and like high achieving people in particular, because it's like you feel like you're somehow not good enough because you can see the ways in which you're not the best.
Right.
And you confuse not being the best with not being good enough. And there is like a lot of room between those two things. And sometimes to get where you're going, you have to tolerate not being the best for a while, because like there's a learning curve, which I think can be difficult for people who are kind of like used to showing up and winning, to like have to humble yourself. But if you're not willing to humble yourself in that way, you're not going to move forward. So you have to get out of your head on that.
No, and it does suck to suck. I'm trying to learn Dutch. I have a large vocabulary in English that does me not much good out here.
Right.
Or is not as well as I'd like it to. And I struggle with pronunciation, as we all know.
Right. Well, no, the language thing's a great example, because with English, we're both people who can communicate, you know, just very well. Top-notch communicators over here. But like I feel very comfortable with the English language. Right. I can really dazzle somebody. Like, if I really want to impress somebody, I'm going to do it with language. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like, so as soon as I'm in a language that I'm not comfortable with, suddenly I just feel stupid and out of control, and like just everything that I'm not. You know what I mean?
But the question is, are you going to let that get in the way of learning more words and slowly getting better over time? Or are you just going to say, well, I am too intimidated to suck at this. It sucks to suck. I don't want to be bad. I'm really good at other things. I'd rather just be really good at those things instead. And I don't think that that's really where a lot of progress gets made.
No, absolutely not.
So I think that that's part of the roadblock, is getting over that. But as we've discussed, you really need to stop waiting for permission.
Yeah, 100%.
Nobody's going to say, hey, very rarely are people going to like actually grab a hand down, pull you up, and like drag you up the ladder. Right? So you better get your climbing arms going. And you don't need anybody's permission to just start doing that for yourself.
No, you don't need an invitation.
Nobody's going to give you one either.
They aren't. It's not coming. So like, don't wait. The gate is wide open and nothing is nailed down. So girl, you just get in here and
start tossing shit around.
Right?
You know, what do you like? Not this? Okay, throw it against the wall. It felt good to smash it, actually.
Right.
And then replace whatever that was with something that suits you and serves you better.
1,000%.
Heyro. For those of you who are in the professional space, it's helpareporterout.com. But like early on with the Content Factory, I was on CNN. I was on Fox Business. I was quoted in the New York Times. I had my agency for 2 years. I had like no employees, we were a brand new baby thing, but I had this tool available and I knew how to use it. And so as a result, I was quoted as an authority in my industry. In the meantime, I just leveled up my skill set as fast as I could, learned from all kinds of mistakes that I learned along the way, but kept getting media coverage because I knew how to do it. And as a result, I'm actually an expert in my industry, not just because media outlets say so, but in the meantime, I made myself that. Right. And so I think that there's a lot of fake it till you make it that can really serve a lot of people. Don't be disingenuous. Don't overstate your skill set. Don't, lie at all. But like, fake it to yourself and fake it to others that like, you can do this because you probably can.
Right. And don't rule yourself out of opportunities without even giving yourself the chance to see if you can get there.
We were just talking about that. What's the difference between women and men applying for jobs in the workplace?
Oh, yeah. I don't know off the top of my head with the numbers, but it's something along the lines of there have been studies done that show that men who apply for jobs, if they have something like 50-60% of the qualifications for a job, they'll apply for it, whereas women need to have like something more like 90 to 100%. Those numbers aren't exact in any way, but it's something that extreme.
Right.
Where the men, if they just have some of the qualifications, they'll apply. Women feel like they need to have basically all of them or they won't. But, then the question becomes, obviously there are like inequalities in the system or whatever that are contributing to the wage gap. But how much are women contributing to the wage gap by not going after positions that they probably actually could qualify? Like men are doing it. You know what I mean?
And some of them are getting those jobs.
Right. Like men are reaching, but that's how you grow.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so and some of the best advice that I got early on in my career was that you should always, when you're looking for a new job, like you want to be doing something that's kind of like at least like 20% kind of above where you are right now, because that's how you're going to grow. And you need to just like bet on yourself in that way that you're going to get there in a game time. You're going to figure it out.
And how often do you not? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Like once you get, the craziest thing about adulthood is like, you and I fly around the world, end up in these boardrooms with these like Ivy League educated people, which like, trust that's not what we are.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we don't just hang. We oftentimes run circles around these people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's because we really fucking know what we're talking about. And like what you realize as you get to be an adult, and if you stop freaking out about yourself all the time and being all insecure and you actually look around, is that like just most adult people out in the world are basically faking it also.
Everyone is scared shitless. Everyone.
Right.
Everyone. The most confident people I know, you get them out after a couple of drinks and they're like, oh no. Deep down, I'm terrified too.
Yeah. Like, don't worry. I still wake up at 3 a.m. and scream into my pillow too. It's not a big deal. Yeah. That's just adulthood.
It is. You've got a lot of memories, Right. A lot of things to scream about in those pillows the older you get. Another mental block, though, is the fear of change.
Yes.
And of the unknown. That's a big one.
Though that one's so huge. We've talked about this before, but Kari and I just cried for like a couple of months before we left for workationing. The idea of just like walking away from everything felt so heavy and so huge. I cried. I was having panic attacks. I was losing my mind all the time.
And yet I knew it was what I wanted.
It was 1,000% what I wanted.
I had set this up for myself, thought about it for years.
Right?
Made plans. Had put all of my stuff in a 10 by 10 storage facility, and yet why was I still freaking out? It's because I didn't know what was going to go on next.
Yeah, we just didn't even know literally where we were going, like we're like, but once we got there, we were like, oh, okay. And I remember us both just feeling so relieved in those, like just that first day or two of workationing, because we were just like, I was just like, what was I so freaked out about? Like I literally just got on a plane and came here. It's 1,000% possible.
I love it, by the way.
Right.
Having a great time.
Right. Now I'm here. I'm in Puerto Rico instead of in like cold ass Ohio in January.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what was my fucking deal?
No, and the best part is I could go anywhere I want to in the world next. Anything is fair game. I could have anything that I want to right now because I gave that to myself. And why was I having so many panic attacks for the months leading up to it?
Right.
I didn't have an internet therapist back then.
Yeah, an internet therapist is key.
I would have really, really benefited from having an internet therapist.
I know you called me, but I was just also freaking out. So
no, when your friends get sick of your shit, like who wants to hear? You know what I mean?
You're like, oh, are you going on a world tour? Are you going to go travel, and it's really hard for you, and you're sad about it? Yeah, I know. People don't really like that.
No, it's not a good thing. Your internet therapist, so you pay that person to listen.
Exactly.
They're clocked in on time and quick to respond. So fear is just, it comes along with a lot of stress.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, like, it's just your natural physiological response to things that stress you out. It's just that, like, the things that stress us out in our, modern life over here is not the same as the things that we were, like, wired to be stressed out about. You know what I mean? So, like, we might not have been being chased by a pack of wolves while we were, putting all of our belongings into a 10 by 10 storage facility and jumping on a plane.
Yeah.
But, like, it sure as hell felt that way.
It definitely did. It really, really did. The cortisol levels through the roof.
Right.
I remember just being so tense the whole time. I was so tense for at least a month. My muscles, I was having like a physical fight or flight response to this change that I wanted and had designed for myself, and I like, again, at the end, what was I so afraid of, right? But at the time, just the fear was palpable. I was waking up in the middle of the night. I was having panic attacks. You and I would cry over Skype together.
Right.
It was, and for what? You
right.
know?
And it's just because like we were scared, and that gets processed in like fear is such a like primal emotion, and it's processed in like a really primal, irrational kind of way. And so sometimes what you have to do is just like recognize the fear and like let yourself feel it and just keep moving ahead.
Don't let fear prevent you from living your best life. Right?
Right.
Don't let fear of the unknown or fear of change or fear of it's going to take a lot of work to get from point A to point B and close that gap that we were talking about earlier, right? Don't let that stop you from actually closing the gap and moving on to the next one.
Right. And like recognize beforehand, before you make a big change in your life, understand that there is going to be like a lot of fear involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's going to be some stress.
Right. Just recognize that that's going to happen. And that it doesn't necessarily indicate anything except that you are about to do something that causes that physiological response.
That you've never done before.
Right. And that's going to happen for you. And sometimes I think just preparing yourself for that and like recognizing it, but like kind of releasing it, not feeling like it necessarily means something is really important.
And again, an internet therapist. A+ for that, especially for digital nomads.
Absolutely, because if you're moving around all the time, where are you going to find somebody who can like keep up with you and like know what's going on? Because you're going to leave,
Right. Again, that link is betterhelp.com/workationing.
betterhelp.com/workationing.
The last of our mental blocks.
Yes.
The fear of failure.
This is a big one. It ties into fear, but I feel like the fear of failure is a very particular kind of fear. I don't know. I think all kinds of people have a fear of failure, but once again, this is one of those things like the imposter syndrome that I think is like particularly difficult for like high achieving people and really intelligent people, because you feel like you should just win, or like you're used to winning, or you expect to win. But then that also, a lot of times there's like a flip side of that where you're like afraid, like what would it mean if you failed?
In your mind, because you're so used to winning, right? It would mean that you weren't good enough, or that you weren't smart enough, or that you weren't capable enough, or that but everyone takes an L sometimes.
Right. And sometimes you take one real publicly, and like you don't need to let that L be an existential threat to your identity. You don't have to be like, well, I'm not really smart, or I'm not really capable. Everybody, listen, LeBron James is in the process of getting swept in the motherfucking finals right now. You know what I mean? Everybody takes an L.
You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
So true.
It's right. And so you've got to take those shots, and not all of them are going to go in the basket. And like, yeah, some of them are going to be at a buzzer, and you're the one who did not win the game.
Right.
And it sucks. It especially sucks if it's a public failure, like you created a startup and you got some investment and maybe some of your friends pitched in and it didn't work out, and now there's money involved and it's a big public failure and it makes you want to cry, right? Even thinking about it. But like, how would you have lived your life if you never took that shot First of all, what kind of regrets would you have? But then second of all, what did you learn in the meantime? What did you learn through the L? Because sometimes you learn more through taking a loss than you would have gotten by taking the win.
1,000%. And I think that that's what you have to realize is that like people act like a failure unless you failed by falling off a cliff or something. Like it's really not that finite. You know, life goes on and it's not the end of you and it's not the end of your life. I had a business, a startup that I started and that didn't work out and that went under. And that was really painful for me and something that was really sad and that I took really hard. And however, all of the things that I'm doing now, this life that I'm living now, that startup that I had set me on the course for all of it. It was the first experience that I had with internet marketing. It was the first experience that I had with SEO. You know what I mean? I learned really in a very in-depth, it was almost like, I always say it was better than an MBA in terms of teaching me about a business and what it actually takes to make it work and, you know, how that whole thing goes. And so, yeah, that was I took that L, but that L is a big part of the win that I'm living right now.
Exactly.
And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. And so, like, if I had never tried because I was afraid to fail, there's an entire chapter of my life, not even a chapter of my life, everything about what my life is now would not be available to me. And so, you know, you can really only be grateful for that.
And everyone fails.
Everyone
takes L's. They almost always suck. You know?
It's not a good time. Nobody likes to lose. But, like, also, don't be so dramatic. Everybody has a bad day, a bad month, a bad year. Listen, my 20s weren't spectacular.
I read an interview with Amy Schumer. I forget what the outlet was, but it was an interview and she was leaving her Comedy Central show to focus on making movies. And there's just a ton, like 10x plus more money to be made in the film industry than in TV, just as a standard rule. And I think she only had one movie out at the time, or one had just come out. And the TV gig was a sure thing.
Right.
She was a smash hit. Comedy Central was, you know, going to let her do whatever she wanted forever.
And she won some awards, I think, too.
Right. But she really wanted to write some scripts and she wanted to see what she could do in Hollywood. And what she told the interviewer kind of stuck with me when I read it. And she's like, you know, I had this guaranteed thing, but I knew that I think I have more potential. Right. And I want to be the kind of person that bets on myself, not that bets against myself.
Absolutely.
I want to take that risk and see what I can do. And it seems to have worked out really well for her. But I found that really profound. I want to bet on myself. I want to be the kind of person who bets on myself and takes the risks because I believe that I can do it and that I can come through for myself. Because quite frankly, in my experience, and I think that this is true in your experience too, Kelly, when your back's against the wall and you need to come through for yourself, don't you always do it?
No, when my back's up against the wall, I'm like Neo in the Matrix all of a sudden.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like all, but I have to get pushed. I have to get pushed to that place. You know what I mean? But in that case,
or do you?
Who knows? But like you are kind of like harnessing, that's a way to kind of harness that fear of failure.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like I suddenly get real good real fast because I'm like, oh shit, you know? And so I think that's absolutely true. I love that about betting on yourself because I think it's so much more, it's really easy to brush that off as some like woo, believe in yourself, manifest your dreams bullshit. But like it's not, because when you don't bet on yourself, you know, when you have a decision in front of you and you make the decision that's going to be best for you if you fail, then the decision that's going to be best for you if you win, then like you're already kind of directing that path, right? You've already closed yourself off to some of the win because you're like, well, I might fail at it. So you don't even try.
Right.
And the truth is that we take failure as this like black and white thing, but like with my business and with a million other examples we could use, that failure most of the time is just a step on the way to something else. So would you rather be on the path where you bet on yourself, where you gave yourself the best options and when you gave yourself like the most room to grow?
And the most opportunity?
Right.
Took every opportunity you could?
Right. Or do you want to be on the path where you stayed safe with what you knew you could handle and then like you didn't even venture it. You know what I mean? Because it really does change. The difference between betting on yourself and not betting on yourself is setting the course of your life. It's deciding where you're going to go.
And it compounds over time.
It does.
Like savings or investing, there is no time like the present to get started if you have not already.
Right?
Because think of that spider graph and where it could go, you know? And if you're not making those decisions, if you're not betting on yourself, you're going to wake up and all of a sudden you're 70. Should you live that old?
Right.
And where are you? Where could you have been? What do you really regret? Probably all kinds of opportunities that you left on the table or pivots that you could have made and really kind of wanted to do, but because of all of the mental blocks that we've described and probably several more, you just weren't able to close that gap, as you say, right? So I think that for me, it all comes down to betting on yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. Yeah, so all of these things are, I would say this is stuff that also, if you're struggling with this, don't be hard on yourself about that either. I feel like I struggle with every single one of these things. And, you know, something that I love about our like network of friends is that we've really surrounded ourselves with people who are actively working on themselves. And all of these people who are high functioning, successful, world traveling, interesting humans are dealing with all of this stuff too.
Right.
You know, so like, don't beat yourself up. Just recognize that like, these are the most common mental blocks. This is the shit that you're not like, you're definitely going to run up against this stuff.
Everyone else does too, though. So the question is, what are you going to do about it? What steps are you going to take to put yourself in the best position now and at every step in the process moving forward? Because again, everyone else is dealing with it too, you know, and you see some people really crash and burn on some of these mental blocks and waste their entire lives or significant portions of them because they just couldn't overcome them. Right.
Right.
And so don't get stuck.
No, and recognize that like these are mental blocks, but so many of these things, like for instance, the sunk cost fallacy, that's actually like a classic logical fallacy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's false is what that is.
Yeah.
And with the fear of failure and so many other things, these are very like, they're all kind of illusions. They're lies, that they're bad programming.
These spoons do not exist.
Right.
You know,
I like
just
getting in the Neo. I like it.
I like a good callback.
I do too.
I'm not deaf to that.
Get it, girl.
I think we did it. Did we do it? I'm tired.
I'm tired too. I think we did do it.
All right. High five.
This has been another episode of the Workationing Podcast. If you like what you've heard here, please consider donating at patreon.com/workationing. That's patreon.com. All proceeds will go towards funding our bucket list items.
To keep up with us in real time, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at Workationing. Or on our website at, you guessed it, workationing.com. That's workationing.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Oh.
Just like not funny right now, though.
I'm not really feeling being funny either.
Can that be your snack?
Maybe. I'm short on the ha-has right now.
Yeah, I'm just like really tired, though.
Yeah, me too.